Shall we start?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Rikke. It's so nice to have you on this podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me here, and inviting me. It's an honor to be here with you. You're a rock star and you're very inspirational to me. So yeah, I'm
Oh,
just happy to be here.
that's nice to hear because that's the same thing that I think of you. I'll read how I wanted to introduce you. You'll see it's part of it even.
All right.
I wonder if I say your surname right. Rikke Kjelgaard.
Oh, that's so close, so close. It's impossible because it's Danish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You are a licensed psychologist, expert, and peer review trainer in acceptance and commitment therapy. You are an awarded fellow of the Association for Contextual Behavioural Science. You're an author, a public speaker, and a life coach. And when I look at your website, you describe yourself as a chief rock and roller in your own business, a butt kicker, and a badass woman. And for me, that is quite a perfect way to describe you. Did I leave anything out?
That is, well, yeah, it's like and I'm my mom, and but that is kind of the professional. That is a fair description of my professional, part of life. Yes, thank you.
When I researched a bit on you, I found also some YouTube videos that you do. Can you tell us more about that? Because they seem really interesting for people to listen.
Yeah, so I do this like in those languages that I speak Danish and Swedish, and this is where I live in Scandinavia. And so I sometimes do a lot of, free trainings and kind of formal, in Danish and Swedish. And then I thought, like, why don't we do something that is more informal and more international? So whenever I get to go to a conference like the ones that you yourself visit, I find that some of the most inspiring conversations, like we have those in the bar, like regardless of drinking or not. But when we sit in the bar and hang out, we have these cool conversations. So I created this, we call it cocktails and courageous conversations. So the premise is this, like I go online together with somebody inspirational. We have a cocktail and we talk about things that we find to be important. And we bring people along so, everybody can join us. So it's literally like going to a bar, hanging out with people you enjoy, and we have a cocktail and we talk about something and record it and we put it online. So that is the premise. So yes, I am, and it's kind of so people know me now as a person who drinks. She's the one who drinks alcohol at work. And so, just be mindful that I do other things, but those particular webinars have been very popular. Yes.
Yeah, I think we needed to mention them because they really seem like very interesting for people to listen to.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So yes, that's on YouTube.
Okay, so before we start, I must mention something that is too funny not to mention. I saw on your website that you once did a 75-minute talk with your dress stuck at your back and your ass showing the entire time.
Yes. I know that you in your description are like, I'm awarded fellow of the ACBS, Association for Contextual Behavioural Science. It sounds so serious, and it is serious. And one of the things that I've noticed is like I always feel like I don't. It's kind of sad because there's like this like I don't belong because I'm not very articulate. I'm very clumsy. I mess up things, and this is an example of that. And so I went to a huge event where I was speaking, and I was really dressed up, like leather skirt, fishnet stockings, high heels. And I went to the bathroom and just before I got on stage, and then I looked in the mirror, and it was like, oh, look, that looks fine. And I went on stage. 75 minutes, and the dress was stuck like behind. And I don't know, like if you can imagine in like fishnet stockings, you look like a Christmas ham. So, and and nobody told, like people were afraid to tell me. And so, yes, 75 minutes, my ass was showing the entire time. And the cool thing is that I survived.
Yes, you did.
And one of the themes that I was talking about was perfectionism and how we sometimes screw up. And people thought, I think some people thought it was part of the gig. It was not. It was not.
It's actually really, we're laughing about it, but actually the thing that I think is very familiar is that you're doing something that could be perceived as being shameful, and people are afraid to tell you.
Yes.
And it's so we turn away from feelings of other people so easily, that even in that situation, I mean, it can be as small as you have something on your lip, maybe you want to.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's so easily that we turn away from how people feel, and maybe even how we turn away from how we feel ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so and it's a, apart from it being a funny story, I think what you're saying is just absolutely nails it. It was so it was not uncomfortable for me at that time because I didn't know it was the uncomfortable bit, came afterwards.
Yeah.
And people were so obviously so uncomfortable because they were so afraid to hurt my feelings, right? And they were afraid of the reaction I would have once I figured out. Yeah.
It reminds me of, it was the first thing that you emailed me when I asked you if you wanted to do a podcast with me. I remember the hug you sent me. And for me, it was the same thing. And I want to tell you what I remember is I mean, I was really feeling awful at that time. And people came up to me and asked me, it was in the middle of a conference. And as you and I know, a lot of people there. So people were asking me, are you okay? Because you don't look okay. But it was like this polite kind of small conversation. And we're used to having more heartfelt conversations in those conferences. So that's already says something, that it was like this more polite kind of a conversation of how are you doing. And then I saw you and I told you, and you hugged me. And it really felt good to have someone who hugged me. I really could use it at the time. And then I felt like, okay, maybe I've hugged long enough and I might just now, go a bit, take more distance. And you pulled me towards you again. And you said like, I don't remember really what you said, something along the lines of you deserve to be held longer. And I remember thinking, wow, you're not someone who turns away when someone really feels awful. It's like you can handle it.
Well, I remember that specific hug as well, and I'm so glad that you got that experience because that was what I was hoping for you. Like, I got you. Like, I will not lean away from this. I will lean into it, and whatever it is that you're holding, I know about what you're holding, but whatever it is that you were holding, you don't have to hold this alone. In this moment, I'm here with you. And so I think sometimes one of the most precious gifts we can give others is like a gift of compassion and sitting with them in a moment of despair.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was just the small sentence you used was, I mean, I've forgotten what you said, but it was more the hug itself that really was heartfelt, and that, yeah, we turned away so easily. And it was really inspirational that you did that, because after that, when I hug someone and he's in trouble, then I really try to hug, like, you don't have to carry this alone. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that you remember this because that was a moment that is a moment that just stands out for me, like connections like that at conferences. And that is a way of, however fair that may be, that is one of the ways that I remember you, like, you went straight to my heart.
Yeah. 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 Thanks. Yeah. Likewise. Definitely.
Thank you.
I wonder how we can help people do that. Talk more openly, try to handle more of suffering of other people and of ourselves. So
that is such a good question. And I think one of the things that we need to acknowledge is that we have this tendency to, like you said, to to turn away from suffering and to react upon what is happening inside of us. I have an example of that if you want me to give you an example. And it's really, it makes me cry every time. So just bear with me. I was doing a thing in Sweden where I was talking for a short period of time, and because I was just on stage for a short period of time, I chose to bring my children because then we could get away for the weekend and they could, come and see me work. Because normally that doesn't work. And so I was on a huge stage and I brought my children, and my teenager sat in the back and was, busy with an iPad. But my little son, he was like, oh, there's a stage, there's a microphone, there are lights, and there's all of that. So he was just like all over the place. And so when I started, I was hoping he would like go to the back, and he didn't. So he was like on the front row, just in front of the stage. And I was giving this talk about vulnerability and about leaning into discomfort. And I told my children that when I work, I sometimes get so passionate that I also get very emotional, and tears will flow. And mind you, they're used to me. Like, I'll cry when I'm happy. I'm cry when I'm sad. I'm cry when I'm angry. I'll cry when I'm proud. So crying is, frequent. And so I was again talking about these vulnerabilities, and I started crying, and the audience started like sharing moments of like despair and difficulty. So we were so moved, all of us. And I was just like so passionate in talking about this. And then I saw Victor, my youngest son, and he was like, he went on stage. He poured water. He went for napkins. He started arranging the pens for the whiteboard. He was really upset, and he was so little that he couldn't really he didn't even have a language for that. Well, he was 9, so he was not that small, but it was clearly very difficult for him. And the invitation was that to people to raise their hand and share something difficult. And then he raised his hand. And I was like, kind of took away the microphone, and my mom's working here. Like, could we take this later? And he was like, you asked us to share. And so Victor was giving a microphone, and then he said on stage in front of everybody, and here I was like the presenter / mom, or actually mom / presenter. And he said, when you cry, it is really, really difficult for me.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know what to do. And I was like, wow. And I was like, what do you notice yourself doing, Victor? Well, I wonder if I can give you some water, or maybe if I got some napkins, or maybe if and he was just talking about all the things that he did. And I was like, wow, that's so sweet. And that's so loving. What do you think would happen if I felt better? And he went, well, if you feel better, then I will feel better. And it was just like that. It was just like, apart from it being very shameful because it was, very public, it was just spot on. And I noticed this is what we're being taught from that we're very small. First of all, to take responsibility for others' feelings. So when mom and dad, or like when adults feel bad, children will often feel like they have to fix it. And so many of us carry this pattern into adulthood that we need to fix and take responsibility for others' feelings. And we have this within us, like we are taught from, we're not even taught. Well, it comes with when we're born. It's a gift and it's a curse that we are so uncomfortable with anything being uncomfortable. So we want to take it away. So my point is that whenever somebody else is feeling is suffering, we have a tendency to want to make it go away. like we have a tendency to want to make it go away for ourselves and for the things that we feel when others feel bad. So one of my like mission, hand to heart missions in life is when, I work with therapists and, practitioners, is to teach them to sit in this, sit in the darkness, to sit in what is difficult with their patient, with their client, with another being, and not run away. And that is like that is a big invitation, and it is so, so difficult. And so, however shameful it is to share this experience with Victor, because I wish, I wish they were at home and didn't have to, be in the middle of that. I'm also very proud that he was actually able to tell me how he was feeling. And it taught me to be more aware of the times where in my family, I give my kids, well, I don't give them, but they take responsibility for the way that I feel. So this is, I think, it's an eternal learning opportunity, and it's so difficult for many of us because we want to take bad stuff away.
Oh, but what you're saying is very interesting, because you're like taking two things at once. So on the one hand, you're taking like the idea of acceptance, like just sit there. You don't have to fix it. You don't need to run away from it. It's okay. And the other part, which I think is very helpful too, is it's not your responsibility to solve this. You can just be there for the other person, which makes it more liberating to just be there. It's not your responsibility for that person to feel better. You can just be present with it.
Exactly. The only responsibility you have is to be human. And, sometimes I would add, choose kindness, choose compassion, but there's no way you can be responsible for others' feelings or actions. The only thing you can choose is how you respond yourself.
Mm.
So there's an interesting piece about, responding rather than reacting, and holding others in compassion and kindness, and knowing that whatever you have right now, it will not break you. Like, you are capable of like, you can sit with this suffering. The suffering will not break you. It is difficult, and it will not break you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What an interesting conversation we're having.
Yes. I know.
It reminds me a bit of one of the things that you mentioned on your website, and which you talk about openly, is the imposter syndrome feeling. And I wonder what that is exactly. For me, it feels like the resume of it is you're a perfectionist and you don't want people to know you not being able or capable.
Yeah, there are different kinds of, I think different people say different things about this. And
Yeah.
so if you really dive into this, there's a lot of like different variations of imposter. There's the perfectionist, there's the superhero who thinks he or she has to, carry the whole world. There's a soloist, the person who thinks that I should be able to do this alone, etc., etc. So I think there are about like normally five categories of imposters, but I think the common theme is that, like, I am a fraud. Like, if when people find out what I really am capable of, they know I don't, I can't do enough for it, and I don't do enough for. I was lucky to get this job, or I was lucky to get here, or I should be doing this by myself. And so there's a lot of variations, and the common thing is that it can become so problematic because people don't really go for the life that they want to live, or go for the opportunities, because they're held back by an inner voice saying that you're not ready, you're not smart enough, you're not as good as others, you were just lucky when they find out, etc., etc. So that is something I'm so passionate about, and that's where the word brave and badass, I think there are places where I put badass on my website, and that is because I want to invite people to step outside of that and see that they are badass, and that it's not a matter of carrying the world or being perfect or being absolutely competent. It's a matter of chasing what is important to you and in engaging in those behaviors with the voice saying you can't do this or you're not good enough.
Yeah.
That is what I'm really passionate about. Having people to step outside of their comfort zones and shine and thrive and be badass in this world. I see so many holding back, and that is such a shame.
Do you still run into it yourself?
Oh, yes. Like, like all of the time. Like just last week, I was out, and I noticed shame when I talk about this. I was interviewed in England for a pretty prominent, interviewer, and for a big chat. Like it was very huge about imposter syndrome, and like when they contacted me, I was like, why are you asking me? I don't know, like literally. And so it just shows up all of the time. And one of the things that I've noticed in my life is that years ago, and sometimes still, but years ago, I wouldn't speak up then. I'd just play it safe. And then I saw myself starting to choosing to kind of practice what I preach. And so I have massive imposter syndrome. And I'm like, I still can't believe why you asked me to come here. And I'm like, oh, should you just, I have all these ideas of why you would do that. And because maybe everybody else said no, and I was the only one who was available and all of that. So it still shows up.
Yeah.
And I know, like, people will tell me that they see me as a very successful and very self-confident, and I've done a bazillion, speaks on stage with or without a dress. and and so I've noticed that I can come across that way. And so people want to learn, how did you do that? And those are skills that are like everybody can master. And so that's what I teach people, to behave in ways that can be perceived as confident and 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 also vulnerable and brave, with an imposter breathing down your neck. Wouldn't
That's
it
a
be a shame if we all just stayed in a corner all of life?
Yeah, it is, and for the both of us, it definitely would be.
Yes, yeah, it would. I know, like you're starting to expand on what it is that you want to do, and I'm guessing you've had a million thoughts.
Oh,
If you're somewhat like me, you probably had those thoughts too. And what, the world would miss out if Annick didn't, if you
yeah.
didn't do what it is that you're doing.
I remember when I began, like 10 years ago, I got a question from Kevin Polk and Benjamin Schudorf to write a book with them, and with a couple of people, and I was asked for it. But I mean, I knew both men, but like from a distance. And so they asked me by email if I wanted to do that. And I said, well, I don't think I know as much, but thank you for asking. And then I got another email saying, but we would really like you to do it. And I kept saying, like, I think 3 or 4 times, like, nah, maybe that's not such a good idea. Isn't there anyone else? And at the end, Kevin said to me, okay, cut the crap. You're just going to write this with us? And so it was so liberating to get that response, because it wasn't about, am I able? It was more about, we just love you to be part of it, and we'll help you get through it, and we'll support you and give you everything you need, but just do this. And that was one of my major moments when I realized, like, yeah, you just have to step in the game and then see if you want to play it, and play it and enjoy playing it. So
I love that. Like, what a beautiful way of getting you to do that.
yeah,
And I love the message in there. You don't have to sound perfect. You don't even have to sound smart or good. We just like the sound of your voice.
yeah,
Like literally, like just come in here and hang out with. We just want to be with you and hear what you have. Like you have, and that, I think, what you're, the light you're shining on something so important, that I think every one of us we have an important message, and if we're waiting for that message to be packaged right, or like looking right or sounding good, my God, might as well mummify ourselves, right?
Mm.
I'm so glad that they said that to you. I'll start saying that more to people. Cut the crap and just and start,
And
come in
start
here,
doing it.
cut the
Yeah.
crap and start doing it. Yes.
But at the same time, I also experienced in these last 10 years that um, setting that type of behavior, which at a certain point, you practice it and and it's okay, and you can do very scary things and do it anyway. But what I've also learned is that doing that needs to be accompanied by this very authentic move of why you're doing what you're doing, because otherwise it will just be behavior that makes you feel more free in the things that you're doing, but actually it's more of the imposter part of I'm able and I can do this. So it's a thin line of when am I doing things aligned with me or right for me, and when am I just creating more imposter syndrome.
I love that. And it is all about the function and the meaning. So as you said, why are you doing this? Are you doing this to quiet down your inner imposter, with the consequence of it just being louder afterwards?
Yeah.
Or are you doing it because it truly is meaningful to you? And so I think that the question we need to ask ourselves, like, what is most important right now, to listen to the imposter, or to make a change in this world, or to get out there and um, and and give your message or share your message, because I think that is sometimes what we forget, is that there's somewhere there's a little girl or a boy looking up to us, and really learning from what it is that we're doing. And I sometimes, have to connect with that I will touch the life of somebody, maybe somewhere, and that will be worth it. Like, that is why I keep going, because people are being touched and changing their lives because of something I might have said or done. That's what's keep me going,
Yeah.
is that. And English is difficult, and I can I just say that I have not been drinking today. Just if we're selling me as the person who drinks at it's only for those. I am not drunk now. Just saying.
I'm so happy that you're trying to convince someone of
Yeah.
this.
Don't you get that with English as well? Sometimes it's like the ends are just so difficult. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I've been struggling with the word February.
February. Yes. We need a cocktail to pronounce February.
I was wondering, for me, taking care of myself has been like one of the most triggering points of the imposter syndrome, because like I can tell other people what to do, but as a therapist and a trainer, I'm not sure if I know myself what to do. How is that for you? Can you like not only take the best care for others, but also for yourself?
No, I really suck at that. And so and and the thing is that I realize that I'm really crap at that, because I'm so busy kind of engaging in others, and being passionate about others, that I forget that. So what I've done, and I'm kind of I'm a little bit ashamed to say it, because I would rather say, oh, I'm so like I just did yoga with but I don't. But what I have done is that first of all, I've started planning it, because I will not have an inner, like, there's no natural inner voice going, oh, you should really, it just, like, the imposter gets in the way. So I'm planning it, literally planning, behaviors of self-care. And I've told my environment, like, I need external help, because it doesn't come really well. Sometimes it does, but rarely.
Yeah.
And so, like, I have set myself up in an environment where the people around me will help me. Like, so that is, I'm not sure that's the way to go about it, but it is, well, there are two ways, like planning and asking for help. And I was over 40 before I learned to ask for help.
Mhm.
Do you ask for help?
Well, I've started asking for help in that domain as well. Yes,
Yeah.
I have a personal assistant, and when I stay too long at my job, she sends me a text like, "Really? Do you really need to, or or can you go home?" And I think that the main thing that helps me become more self engaged is to stop using a hard voice to tell me that I'm not really doing things well if I don't also take care of myself in a on a very high level. That at first acknowledging like it's not, apparently it's I work is my first automatic response. Engaging in others, engaging in things that I'm passionate about, and then I come at the last place. And so I'm becoming more kind, as you say, and becoming more kind helps me do more of that. It's like I'm in the situation where I'm becoming more. How do you say that? I have more automatic behavior in that direction than I ever used to have. Yeah, which is very
I
nice.
love that you're using kindness. I think that to have compassion for ourselves when we do those behaviors, and to have compassion when we don't, like, and to have compassion for that struggle. And so, and I also think that you're like, I know a little bit about your business, and I know about you, and I'm guessing that one of the, like, you're so passionate about work, and sometimes we think of it, sometimes we talk about other people being engaged in work as like an avoidance, like, you are. I think for some people, it's not. Like for me, like I am, it's not that I don't want to do other things. It's just like this, I love what I'm doing. And no, it's the same for you.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just do it 24/7 because it's so rewarding.
Yeah, it is. And at the same time, I think kindness also invites me to be honest about it, because
Yeah.
to really look at, yeah, I'm not doing that well. If you would have asked me like 10 years ago, I would have said, I'm not doing it as much, but I am having fun. But it's two different things. I am having fun and I'm forgetting myself.
Yeah.
It's not one or the other. And so the honesty of I'm not good at it and I'm learning how to do more of it. You and I were both creative, and that helped me, for example, to be more self-engaged, to do things that were just for me, for no one else.
Yes.
Was very
Yes.
important.
What do you do that is creative?
Well, I saw your alcohol ink. I don't know how to call them, paintings or art, and I
Yeah. Yeah.
love them. I absolutely love them. I do hand lettering, and I would like to combine it with alcohol ink in the future. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Hand lettering. Yes. Yes. So I think that you totally nailed it again. That the thing about doing something that gets us also a little bit, a little bit out of our heads and more into, for me, just doing that. And I noticed whenever people would say, "Oh, can you do something that I can buy?" And I can, but then I will start feeling like I have to perform. So if you ever, I'm guessing you've seen me on Instagram
Yeah.
with the ink. I think I only show like half pieces because it's the process, it's the playing with it that
Yes.
gets me going. The minute people start like wanted to buy from me, they can do that, but then it becomes a little bit more business, right?
Yeah.
So I really love to play and to decide this does not have to be sold or even shown or to anybody. I'm literally just playing with paint
Yeah.
or alcohol ink.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I needed to get a mask for that. I didn't know that. I was playing with alcohol ink and I was looking around and go, why is the room so strange? And I kind of fainted. And people, my partner was like, the room is so strange because you're sitting in the fumes of alcohol. You need a mask. And I was like, I don't need a mask. Like, I'm not the kind of person who needs just notice it goes on into all areas. Now I'm wearing a mask and hence not fainting when I'm playing around. So yeah, none of us are Superwoman or Superman, and we shouldn't have to be. Yeah.
That's interesting that you say that, because while I was preparing for our conversation, I was thinking men and women probably suffer differently.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they do. I'm not entirely sure how,
Yeah.
but I think there are many, many differences in the way we suffer and the way we approach suffering. And, we're also like, there's evolutionary differences. But and I don't know enough about it, but surely there's a big difference in how when men and women take on the world. There's we've seen differences in how, like in the workplace, men are much more, have a much bigger tendency to tell about their accomplishments, whereas women, they don't want to do that because they don't want to be perceived as bragging and etc. It's just like, that's an interesting trait, like difference in gender, because I think like women need to, I'm not sure I like the word brag because it has like this function of, but I invite women to share their accomplishments more, and I'm loving that men seems to have nailed that better than women.
Yeah, or they need it to, they need to talk about what they accomplished because it helps them in a way as well. It could be both.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. It was. I was thinking that while we struggle, and this might, I mean, it doesn't sound funny for you, but if I say this to listeners, this might sound funny. If we will become good at struggling, then we probably will be better at living.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, because you help helpers, this is a nice way to put it. You train psychologists and other social workers, etc. I think one of the things that I hear most when I still do supervision for psychologists, and I often hear like, but I'm not sure if I'm, able, or if I can do this. I'm unsure about myself. And then sometimes I say, maybe you should just tell your client you're not sure. And they're like, but I mean, I cannot do that. If I tell him, he'll think I'm incompetent, etc. And I was thinking, is that really true that if you are a CEO of a company and you're struggling, that you might not be a good CEO? If you are a psychologist and you're talking about the fact that you're struggling, that you're not a good psychologist?
Well, I love that question. And I literally see it the other way around. I think in order to be like the best CEO, I think you need to be able to show yourself vulnerable and authentic. And I think in order to be a helpful helper, I think you need to show yourself vulnerable and authentic. And I think there's a lot to be said about like context and body language. So let's say you were my patient, and you go like, tell me what to do, and I go, I don't know, like, yeah. Well, that would probably be problematic for you, because you'd go, well, didn't you like study this? But if I go like, right now I'm not sure what to say, and I'm really happy that you share this with me, like, it's a completely different thing. So I think saying that I don't know, or I'm struggling right now, there's so many ways that can be said. And if you're willing to sit with that and sit with yourself and, stay, like if you're the CEO and you go, right now I'm hurting and I'm not sure what to do, and I'm still standing, like I will not leave this ship, but I will tell you that it's difficult for me right now. I think that is so it's beautiful. And, when people do it, I cry and I get so proud, because that is exactly what I train people to do, to stay in the difficult and to share it, and to not go it in a way that goes, right, I don't, because that's something completely different, right?
I did a mindfulness training once, and we gave feedback to the mindfulness trainer, and talking about it with her, she started saying in group, well, I've been thinking for a long time, maybe I need to leave this job, and maybe it's not what I should be doing. But the way that she presented it was like, you're giving our problem back to us, and now we need to handle the fact that you're not sure about this job. I mean, that's not our job. We need to handle the job.
Yes. Yes. So if you're a CEO, I'm trying to figure if you were a CEO and you got really horrible feedback and you felt bad, I think one way, well, you're Annick, you're the one who knows all about it, but my spontaneous would be whoa, oh my God, thank you so much for sharing this. I know that it's painful, and thank you, thank you for telling me there's something I need to work on here, that, often I think that would be a much more workable, because I think that what the person you described there was that when we go into that mode of, I'm in lack of better words, where we kind of feel sorry for ourselves, and when we feel like a victim, and that the world has, is not treating us nice. And I, it's a valid place to be, you can be wherever you want to be. I'm not sure though it's very helpful place for you to be. So you can be like a literal victim of everything, and you can still choose to put yourself in a position where you're the agent of your own life. Mr. Paul Gilbert, or I had the pleasure of hanging out with Mr. Paul Gilbert a while ago. He's the founder of, I know that you know, but for your listeners, compassion-focused therapy. And he said something that just went straight to my heart. He said, your house might burn, imagine that your house burns down. That is not your fault. Or that, you are being hit by a car. It's not your fault. But, and I will say, and he will say, but, and you do have a responsibility. So if your house burns down, it's not your fault, but it's your responsibility to rebuild it. If you're being hit by a car, it's not your fault, but it's not your responsibility to start walking again. And it really just struck me, because so many of the people that you and I see, Annick, are in a place where they felt like the world has hit them in some way, and they're kind of stuck, which is completely understandable, and it's not your fault. What you do have, though, is a responsibility to get up and live the life that you want to live.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
I was thinking if we can give people some advice on how to begin tackling the imposter syndrome if they have a problem with it.
So one way I think to begin, and this, it can sound difficult, is that to first of all to notice that it's there. Just notice that you're being held back by an inner voice, and not it's a voice. It's a thought that you're having. It is not necessarily the truth or the rules of the universe. So noticing that there's an inner voice, and it's probably trying to take care of you, right? It's trying to help you not go on stage with your ass hanging out, or not failing, or something like that. But the question is whether we should always listen to it. I will answer the specific what do I do, but I just wanted to tell you, I saw this picture, and I think it was from Canada. It's a picture of a car in a lake. It's my favorite. It's horrible, and it's my favorite picture. I use it all the time. And the headline is "Woman follows GPS into lake." All right. So woman gets into car. This is gender neutral. A person gets into a car, taps in, some kind of direction. And surely there must have been some signs saying the road is stopping now, you are approaching, but the GPS set straight ahead. And I just love this as an example that when you set your GPS to something, it can be very, workable to follow it. But sometimes we want to notice the surrounding and go, okay, the GPS says straight ahead. There's a lake. I'm going to have to make, some adjustments. Mm-hmm. And so the same thing goes with our inner imposter, as if it's a GPS. You want to sometimes you want to listen to it, and sometimes you really, really don't, but there's no way of turning it off. It's it's there. So the first step would be, I think, to notice that it's there, and then to start choosing, when will I listen to it and when will I not? And then the second thing was exactly what you actually said earlier. Like, why is this important to you? Like, why, like the thing that you're not doing because your imposter is holding you back, why is that important to you? And then to connect with the why rather than the why not.
Mhm. Yeah, there is more wisdom in the why than there is in the why not.
Exactly, exactly. Yes. And then, imagine, so I'm not saying it, all of us has a job on stage, but if it was like, if you go onto the stage to give voice to something that is important, you have to bring your imposter with you, because if you're waiting till until the imposter is quiet, you might never, do it. So speak up now. Set that boundary now. Go ask for that job now. Go ask that boy or girl out. Start your own company. Start your podcast, or whatever it is that is important to you, with your inner GPS telling you to maybe do something else.
And maybe evaluate it afterwards, I was thinking as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Surely, like if I go back to this podcast, I will notice all of the times that I was swearing. I will notice that I didn't put on makeup. I will notice that I pronounced things wrong. I will notice that I tried to convince you that I'm not drunk. And the fact that, when you're trying to convince somebody you're drunk, you're not drunk, you sound like all of that. I would go back to that. And, and so noticing also what happens after a certain behavior, the way we approach ourselves. And as you said before, like to choose kindness, to have compassion for ourselves, that we can't, there's no way we can be perfect all the time. Like there's no way that can happen.
Yeah, and I think for me, evaluating is also about looking back and thinking, I chose that path that was different from my imposter. I took him with me. But if I take the other path, how does it feel, or how content or grateful am I to take that road instead of the other one that I'm used to taking? Like if you look
Yes.
back.
So notice and appreciate that you did something different.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to look at this podcast and me as well, and we would just go over the things that we think we didn't do exactly how we wanted to do them, and you said some things and I wanted to go into them, and then I lost the thread of the conversation and I did something different, and I can look at that and say, yay, but I did it anyway. Or I can look
Yes.
at, but how was it for me to just be me in the conversation, and notice how the imposter came and went back, and
Yes.
how I know that if I would have done this differently, like 5 years ago, with a lot of more of this imposter syndrome attacking me, how this conversation would not be invigorating as much. It would more make me tired and
Yes.
think of, when will I stop doing that?
Yes. I think what you're saying, Annick, is so important. Like, do you deliberately choose to put your attention somewhere else, and choosing to put your eyes on whatever was meaningful and helpful, or etc., instead of going into the loop about everything that we do wrong.
Yeah.
I think so many of us spend a lot of time there, like evaluating negatively on what we didn't do, or didn't do it right, right?
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Okay. We're already at the end of the podcast.
Oh my God. Isn't this amazing? I'm so proud of you for doing this. Like, just imagine all of the lives that you're touching by doing this, that putting this into the world. So I'm just wanted to say that I'm so grateful that you are doing this.
Thanks. Thanks. That's very nice to hear. Thanks.
Are you doing these in your own language as well?
Yes, some of them,
Yeah.
mainly in English, but mainly in English because I know a lot of English speaking people, and because I really want to get them out there.
Yes.
And the other, and of course, some Belgian people that will speak Dutch, of course, as well.
Yeah. Oh, I love Dutch. I love, love, love Dutch. It's such a beautiful language. Yes.
Yeah, it sounds so much like Swedish or Danish, or it's a bit.
It
I
sounds
mean,
a little bit like Danish, I think.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it has a bit the same ring to it. Yes,
Yeah.
very true. Okay, thank you very much, Rikke, for spending time with me and having this very inspirational conversation.
Dank je wel. That's what I can say. Well, thank you for having me. And again, I'm grateful that you're doing this, and I'm just, proud to see you touch the lives of so many people. But really nice to see, a woman going out there and accomplishing all of these great things. So kudos to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me just, okay. So before we end our conversation, where can people learn more about this work that you do?
So to come back to the very beginning with my tricky name, but my website is actually my name. So www.rikkekjelgaard.com. So I'm hoping somewhere that you have put down like, so it's my name with a .com after it. That's where I hang out.
And so, you also have a program that I think people can follow, right? To
yes, yes, I have the Fierce, Fabulous, and Female program. So you will see all about that on my website. So everything that I do is in the website, and I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and everywhere. So if you want to connect with me socially, just come find me.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, bye.